And we begin with a quote. I am the Alpha and the Omega, says the Lord God, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. Revelation, chapter 1, verse 8. We left you all. Kaliak is still praying on the ground, Lesh sort of keeping watch, and Onsilis and Radek turning to return back into the farmhouse. When you enter back in, you see Kaliak on the ground, and she is fully in the throes of her prayer. This is something reverent and with as much power as she can put into it. Her voice is growing louder and almost distorted in sound. This is a bizarre sort of moment for you all to witness as you sort of come back inside. Lesh, what are you doing as Radek and Onsilis return?
I would be watching over her, almost like a steel sentinel, as she is in her prayers, him not knowing what to do or how to handle this particular situation.
Onsilis, you see this scene, and Radek, you do as well, and what do you sort of make of this moment?
I'm going to say something stupid, so if you're going to do something profound, you probably want to go do it first.
I love that.
I think Onsilis remains quiet, stepping in.
As Radek comes in and sees this, he looks over at Onsilis and says, so is she praying to herself right now then? If she's feels a little circular. Am I overthinking it? Okay. He'll walk off, go find a quiet corner somewhere, sit down, pull out his water bottle, and pour himself a cup and just watch the events unfold.
Kaliak, through this, is starting to break a sweat. You see the beads sort of forming on her forehead as she's sort of throwing herself forward and then backwards again. It is getting increasingly louder and a bit more bizarre before you, until finally on her knees, the top half of her body sort of juts upright and her hands are held aloft, and the bell that she prays with on that beaded cord is now ringing on its own. It's moving on its own. It's ringing frantically before you. Kaliak's eyes dart onto yours, Onsilis. And she says in a very clear and very confident voice, he has summoned you.
I think fear touches Onsilis' face. He's remained silent in this room, quietly watching, trying not to disturb the things happening here. Does she seem lucid to him in this moment as she says this?
Absolutely.
I'm afraid I cannot turn down court with the god of death.
No. You mean not. He has summoned all three of you. The bell is still ringing on its own. She's not moving her hand. It's like almost like a string is pulling on it.
I think Onsilis' eyes move to see his companions' reactions to this?
Exactly this.
Where is it that we go to answer this call?
I take you there, to him.
I thought we were going to the Iron City.
Seems as though we have a detour.
You're not...
I don't know. Our promise was to bring her to the Iron City.
We don't leave this place. On this realm. She looks back at you, Onslaught. Do you want to see where I go then? You seemed curious during the festival.
I do.
She gets up wordlessly and she begins work. This is probably the most work you've seen her do since you've met her. She is moving whatever chairs or furniture there is within this living room sort of area aside. She's folding up the blanket that you had put down and handing it back to you, Onslaught, to put away back into your pack. And she is just shoving everything as far away from the center as she possibly can. There is her pack, and she is rummaging through it. She is methodical and meticulous, so she pulls out chalk at first. And there is a sigil that she begins to draw, that same sigil that you all have seen before. The scar of death. She then is sort of glancing between all of you and takes a moment to position you, if you would allow her. She goes to you, Lesh, first, and she very gingerly puts her hands on your shoulders and starts putting you at one spot, and then moves over to Onslaught and does the same. And then, of course, the same with Radek until you guys form a triangle. She then goes back into her pack again and pulls out a jar of this black substance. It is salt and ash. One by one, starting with Radek, she takes your hand, and her touch is so warm and soft, and not a single inkling of what she is resides in that touch, in those hands. Until she wills it so. And she pries open your fingers and pours the salt and ash into your palm and then closes your fingers over top of it. And she does this to each of you, and Onslaught, you're the last one, and she lingers while still holding your fingers closed. You drop the salt and you are pulled out. Don't drop it until you are ready. And she steps into the center of you three. Turning to face each of you, she speaks. You are going to see things that no man in even your great-grandfather's lifetime has ever seen. Whatever you do, do not panic. When Zadka calls for court, in his wisdom, he will try to trick you, to pull you into the Ichor. Do not falter. Do not let your emotions become your folly. Sit when you are ready. Lesh, do you sit?
He does.
Onslaught?
He takes a moment, touching the salt in his hand, looking to it before his eyes move back to her, and he sits.
We will assume that Radek also sits. Kalyak lays all too comfortably in the center. She looks as though she is preparing for sleep, her body relaxed. her shoulders falling to the hard wood of the floor. If you didn't know any better, you would assume this some maiden in a wanton position. She looks to the ceiling, and as her eyes begin to roll into the back of her head, the blood begins to run from her nose and trail a jagged line down her cheek. In that same braided voice you heard while facing Uzavka, she whispers, "Do not fear the gift of death." Your vision is black. You hear the rush of water overcome you, like the moment you are freed from the feminine cage of your mother's womb, the Alpha. And as you come to, you are ripped out by some unseen force with violence and indignation from the Ichor. You are standing in a somewhat dark and viscous liquid that rises to shin height. You cannot see below your boots, but it is cold and unforgiving as you trudge along. Seemingly endless, there is nothing here but the absence of light beneath you. You are sort of lost in this darkness. But above you is the overwhelming brilliance of a cosmos, boundless and limitless, infinite above you, shining down. The stories of old have always described the great Ichor as your own personal heaven after death, nirvana, near eternal peace before rebirth. But they did not tell you what was above. A galaxy of prismatic nebulae shining in purples and blues with hints of gold, twisting and winding, enriched with hundreds and thousands and millions and more of twinkling little lights. A web of dewdrops along silver threads. The space in the peripherals of your vision makes a V shape, like trees deep in a forest, deep on a mountainside. And the moon rises up from the apex, and it is full and massive and brighter than any light. You are seeing the stars for the very first time in your lives. And it is brilliant, beyond human comprehension. As you move, you feel your bodies lurching, your hearts pounding, the same sensation of falling asleep. Panic sets in as you notice your vision causes traces to skitter across. Your hands blur as you move them before your eyes, and it is fascinating. When you move, you feel as though your spirit is delayed from your body, as if it were one step behind you, detaching, then catching up again. You think for a moment you are dying. I'd like to take a moment to go around and ask each of one of you how you react to this sight and feeling. We'll begin with Lush.
Lesh is awestruck. Maintaining the composure that he can, he looks at this, feels this, and he's having almost a war within him of what to believe and what to know.
Okay. Radek.
I think because of his background and his upbringing, Radek has a fair amount of experience tripping out on drugs in the middle of rituals. So I think that, you know, in many ways, his kind of his nature as someone who doesn't really kind of put stock in too much thing, doesn't really he doesn't become a believer kind of all of a sudden. He knows what tripping balls is like, and he kind of figures that whatever she did is what's happening. So he's mainly focused on trying to remain calm, not go too deep, not lose himself, not kind of, lose control, basically. I think he's really kind of fighting that just as he used to do back in the day, like just trying not to get too carried away with it and too lost in it. But I think that at the same time, he gets a little bit of a, kind of what Lesh said, a bit of being awestruck at the sheer vastness of it. And, these are things he would not have imagined. So that, that they're springing forth from what he figures is his mind is kind of a little unsettling to him. So I would say he's probably a little unsettled by this and just kind of trying to keep his composure and remain anchored, so to speak, into the reality.
Anoncelus.
In looking up to the sky, Oncelus is, much like the others, awestruck. He recognizes in the sky star charts he's only seen in the deepest depths of the library. He can count out constellations, and he lifts his hands as though he can almost pluck the stars from the sky, making sure to hold fast to that fistful of salt. And he is wholly moved by this. A tear streaks his cheek as he looks out, thinking that these are things he would have only ever been able to read about, charts dotted by astrologers hundreds of years ago. He never thought could be made real before him. He's speechless before it. It's even more beautiful than anything he could have ever read in text or imagined himself.
Lesh, as you look back to your comrades, you realize you are alone. In the distance, you hear a sudden plunging of water, thrashing and gasps of a woman. But that is so far from where you stand now. And here the Ichor is peaceful, gently lulling along. As you continue, you see something floating towards you in the distance. Soft blonde hair slickened and mussed from the Ichor. Wrapped in the embroidered muslin you had buried her in, your wife's motionless body comes drifting towards you. She is just as serene and beautiful as you remember her. She looks young and healthy, like when you first met her, and for the first time you had understood what it was to be a man and in love. There is a smile playing off of Nadia's lips, and she seems to be cradling something in her arms. Radek, you look, and you too are alone. Just as Lesh, you hear the sound of someone thrashing in the water. As you begin to push onward, something hits your leg. And then again, and again. You look down and a head floats by. But there is no body. The sunken features, the mouth stitched closed, the jagged edges of the neck where it was cut from the body are all the telltale signs of a hearth witch. The eyes are closed, but you think you saw movement behind them, like someone dreaming. When you look up, there are hundreds of decapitated heads floating towards you. Onsolus, the sound you realize is someone drowning. You distinctly hear the gasp of a woman, breathless and wheezing in intervals. But you hear something else. 4 distinct steps. When you look behind you, you see the wolf stumbling towards you. She lives, but she is just barely holding on. Black threads keep her attached to the ichor. Her head swings back and forth to try and rid herself of the ties she has to this place, but they do not budge. When she looks up at you, she pants and wags her tail, her ears perking up. The great sadness of a wolf is not one to be mistaken as anything else. You feel the gut-wrenching anxiety she feels, the loss of her pups and her pack. She is wandering this place in search of both, and by the gods, you can feel the arrows in your back too. She died at your feet pleading for your help, to stop the hunters from cutting her down, and you failed, Onsolus. You could have helped her. The sound of some force crashing into the ichor startles her, though. Lesh, at a closer look, you realize whatever it is your wife is cradling is small and fleshy, squirming. You see 2 hands, 2 feet, and what you think is the face of an unborn child. Our son, your wife says. Her eyes are open and she looks so happy to see you once more. The reminder of how long you've been gone from home. The reminder that your time out as a sellsword has robbed you of how many hours, days, and years with your wife. Time you will never get back, and here she is, beckoning you to come closer, to look at your son. You have, or rather had, a son. What do you do?
He is beautiful, my love.
Won't you return to us, my love? Won't you come home finally?
In time, I will be home. Do not worry.
You left us, Lesh. It is a man's voice that has taken over the softness of your wife's. You hear a voice in the back of your head, a lullaby as she calls out to you. Turn away. Get up and turn away. You realize now that ichor is rising up towards you, grabbing at your clothes. Nadia's right there, Lesh.
When she is safe, I will come to you, but not a moment sooner.
You lie.
I do not lie. My wife knows me, and she knows I would never lie. Never to her.
Your words are cut short by the sound of another crash and a cry of a woman. Radek, the heads are rearing back. The ichor seems to recede with it, like a tidal wave looming overhead. You hear the unending and unoverwhelming call of the hearth witches, the hymns in old tongue. You hear the same as you heard in the City of Tears. Though out of key and mismatched, the sound begins to invade your senses. The wave is now towering directly above you, the heads of the dead women, because that's what they were, Radic. They were just women, just who tried to do right in the world, who are now wronged, are looming above you, singing for your demise. What have you done, Radic? The voices demand an answer.
I have failed.
You did nothing.
I did nothing.
Nothing is the point. You did nothing to stop it. You walked away.
What will you have of me, old woman?
Just as Lesh, it is no longer the singing of women that keen to you. It is the voice of a man admonishing you, and the wave of mutilated heads begins to descend upon you, but you too hear a woman's voice. It is Kaliox, and she is whispering to you, "Run, run, Radic, run!" What do you do?
Radic falls to his knees in the muck. He looks up at the voices and the heads looming over him. The earth is more powerful than all. The earth has taken you already. You're not here to torment me. It is something or somebody else. And while I have done wrong by the old women, whoever, whatever you are, I owe you nothing. And so if you have the power to take what you want, take it. If not, fuck off and let us be.
Onsless. Behind the wolf appears a man. His face is too familiar. He is ablaze. The crackling fire engulfs him. General Casimir holding a dagger. He bends low to the wolf and scrubs her like a pup. His face meets yours. His teeth are black as he grins through the fire. You hear a voice in the back of your head. Don't let her drown. At your feet, the ichor is beginning to swell. The dagger is at the wolf's throat. What do?
I think Onslus gathers his strength. He hears the words of Kaliak in his mind, telling him to not believe the things he sees, to turn from them. And he takes one last look at General Casimir, his eyes narrowing, and it is enough fire inside of him to turn and begin to walk away from the things he sees.
Just as you turn, you see Casimir slit the wolf's throat, and her blood sprays out everywhere, and it is swelling with the ichor. And you hear Kaliak's voice, "Don't let her drown. Keep running." Do you run?
He takes off.
The gasps and gurgles are coughs. They're wheezing, and it's close by. You hear it at first. You think to your left and then to your right. It's hard to single out where it's coming from as it echoes across the ichor. As you move along, you begin to spot one another. Radic on his knees, Onslus running, Lesh turning away and walking towards you. And you end up in that same triangle as you did at the farmhouse. What do you say to one another?
I think Onslus looks between his companions and says, "What did you see?"
I saw guilt.
Old sins, gone, buried, best forgotten. And dig up for some. The amusement of something.
Don't understand. We were in the Ichor.
You're still here in the Ichor, just to clarify. It's still in this dark sea of black.
But we can see the triangle of the room
You
that
can
we
see
started in.
Standing in that position in the
You're in
Acrid.
that position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did you see, Anselus? What horrid wind from your past was blown towards you this evening?
I saw the wolf.
The wolf outside the City of Tears.
Yes. And I saw my father kill her.
Is that your... Is that your darkest sin, then? Have watched a wolf be killed?
Is that what you think you saw, your darkest sin?
Oh. Indeed I did.
Perhaps I don't see my sin, but the sin of those around me.
Blessed are you, Anselus.
Yes, blessed am I.
Is this done? Or are we trapped here now?
Where's the girl?
You see something else. Catching your attention. Massive. Gargantuan. 20 or more stories high. Impossibly tall. Gnarled, spindly hands peek out from the cosmos. Just in front of you, the skin is gray and mottled, and you realize it's holding something under the ichor. The flash of a hand, thin and pale. A naked body rises up just as large as the hands. The raised scar on her back. And then you see her as the creature lifts Kaliak's head above the ichor. He holds her with long black thumbnails pressed into the soft submental space just under the chin to tip her head back. You hear a voice cooing at her like a prize. Just a little more. Just a little more. The hands dip her head beneath the ichor once more, and you see her body twitching and jerking as he drowns her, and then lifts her up. A tide comes sloshing against you. The devotion here is held between both of them. Her eyes in this massive form slowly drag over to you, and you realize the creature is also turning its head. You realize you make out what is a cloak made of the stars with its hood up. There is no face beneath it. It is devoid of all light, black and vacant. Except you can make out 9 glowing silver eyes in neat rows opening one by one, with the thrumming of your hearts and the oppressive weight in your limbs and at the base of your skull. As it begins to descend upon you, you 3 realize very quickly and with a terror that only mortal man knows, you are face to face with a god. One of the Holy 9. Zatka, god of death and moon. The ferryman, the keeper of the great ichor, and his sights are set upon you. This moment now before you all, you realize, is the Omega. He drops Kaliak, leaving her to sputter, her face half submerged in her watery grave as he descends. A mountain of a beast shrouded in his black cloak of stars. You glance back to Kaliak and she is motionless. You think she might be dead until her eyes open once more and she calls to you. Do not fear the gift of death. Stand firm. Do not drop it. You realize you are still holding that fistful of ash and salt. Death starts upon you faster than you can blink. Do you drop your salt, Lesh? Radek. You're muted.
Radek's gonna hold on for a second and see what his two companions do, because he's like, what the fuck?
Onslus.
Onslus tightens his grip.
Radek shrugs and holds on to it.
He shrinks in size, but still towers above you as he comes to face you three, his head canting from one side to another. His voice is booming as he speaks. You come to my house of death.
You sought to hold court with us, and here we are.
Court is a mortal word. But an invitation was given through Kaliak. And you see her, and she's just sort of lolling in and out of consciousness, her eyes sort of rolling into the back of her head. And she's still this massive form, almost like you're looking at her through a periscope, huge and distant. I am glad you came. And I am glad that you were brave enough to not run. I have called upon you as a way of thanks. Perhaps that is what you would call it. Do you know who I am?
Vodka, god of death.
That is I. He regards you in this way where it's almost like you are precious to him, childlike. But he is as old as time, so you can't really expect much else from him. You have been set on this task by your mortal king, the Emperor, to bring the war machine to him. Is this correct?
This is correct.
Do you want to give the war machine to the Emperor?
No. I do not.
Do you want to give the war machine to the Imperator?
No. I do not speak for my companions, but I speak for myself.
He looks at the other two.
I look over at Lesh.
Lesh just has this look of pure and utter anger.
You are angry? Why?
Why her? Why this innocent person did you claim to be your avatar? This creature who is so full of life, and yet you have taken it all away from her. Why not some old crone? Why would you do it to someone so young and innocent?
She was born this way.
If you are a god, you had an exact defining moment of choosing who would be this.
They had to be born this way. They've always had to have the power. They will always have the power until they die.
You ask too much of her.
She is a willing offering to me. She does not have to use her power. No one is making her. She holds it. She does what she wants with it. She understands the sacrifice. But you are angry over this. Be angry with the men of the mortal realm who make her do this, who wish to use her as a weapon.
No one would use her if no such weapons existed.
But that is where we have an interesting moment. Do you want to see the rain gone? Do you wish to see myself and my brethren return? Does this amuse you?
Indeed, it does.
Why is that, mortal man?
What does it matter what we want? You're God. You're God of death. You're God, right? You and your brethren, if you wanted to end the reigns, if you wanted to return, why wouldn't you just return? What does the will of 3 poor sodden rats mean? Why even ask us? You're a god and you're asking me.
I am not
I want you to return.
I am not without
comical.
my restrictions. It is either all of us return or none of us return, and my brethren are less keen on this idea. Perhaps I am special.
Shouldn't they get to choose what they do? If you get to choose what you want to do? Why would you force them to do something they don't want to do? Why would you force them to come back to this baleful place? This place of rot and disease? If I had my choice, I wouldn't be here.
I pity the mortals. I wish
You pity the mortals.
I
You
do.
pity us.
In fact, yes. I never wanted to leave in the first place.
Yet you chose to.
Sanse chose to.
You're gone. People die all the time. What did you do before that
What do
we're
you
short
mean?
on now?
How do you figure? What do you mean? I don't understand.
You're a god of death. People are still dying even though you're not there. So what is it that you bring to the table? What is it that you do for us? You pity us. What is it that you would do for us that would make us fall to our knees and pray to you again? What is it that you bring to us, if not death, which we already have?
Death does not
More than
have
we-
to be this painful thing.
And yet, upon our arrival, you show us the most painful things. For this is your realm, is it not?
Do you
You
wish to be
you
a
show us-
guardian of Galiak, or do you wish to run and hide?
That is irrelevant.
It is not.
Death is a sweet release from the trappings of the mortal plane, and yet here you are guardians of your divine instrument. And what do? Your first thing, to show us things that we already know, things that have racked our past, to make us confront it. This is not a way to garner favor in any capacity.
And I don't need your favor. I just need you to act on my behalf. Whether you like me or worship me is irrelevant. Whether you revere me as anything more than the ferryman, again, irrelevant.
Then tell
But
us what you want so that we may go and do it and be free of all this. We were hired and gave our words to bring the war machine somewhere. I personally have no particular desire to see her go anywhere specific, so wherever you want her to go is fine by me. Tell us what you want, and let's do it, because you ask what I want one thing and one thing only, and that is the death of a man. One specific man, and every moment that I cannot bring this particular quest to fruition is one extra moment I have to wait before I can get the one thing I wish for. So tell us what you want, and let us do it.
I would like it if you returned morality back to the world.
Oh, Christ.
And more importantly, there are 9 Lords of Blight. Well, 8 now. You've killed one. Destroy the rest. Return them back to Nav.
Seems to me you're a pretty shitty god if you can't take out your own trash. And he throws the salt.
I'm gonna back you up real quick. Are you sure you want to do that?
Yup.
Okay.
This god is fucking beyond corrupt. This god is a contradiction of itself. He
You're
has
ripped out.
no patience.
You're ripped out. He looks to you, Onsolus.
I look to Onsolus too, like,
What of you?
What do the other gods want? What would it take to bring them back to dissolve the rain?
Destroy the Lords of Blight.
You say this as though it's a simple task.
I never said it was simple. It is only a task. You have 8 left.
And what will this do to the girl? We cannot destroy them without her. And I've seen the toll it takes on her.
She understands the sacrifice that she has made, and she understands to never fear the gift of death. Surely you remember your conversation with her at the eclipse? To give everything away, to sacrifice what is most important. I watched.
I do not serve you the way I serve your lover. But
No, but she does.
I will do what Kaliak wants.
Very good. And you, Radek. Do you drop your salt as well?
He's still staring at Anselus, waiting to see what Anselus does. He's not going to leave Anselus here alone.
He's holding on.
Do you know what you're doing? Anselus?
No, I don't. If I'm being honest, I'm believing. I'm giving my faith to something. And as he's saying this, he's looking at Kaliak and nothing else. I have only that to give.
Why do you do this?
We all have chains, Radek. Remember, I, like any other man, wish to be free of my chains. But they are not so easy. All I want is to see the sunshine again. Sunshine I've never seen, other than what I've produced only days ago.
And you think that there's a possibility you might be able to see that?
I think so. I think that we can give that back to the world. And with the sun comes hope. I think that's all we need.
Hope is one of the worst diseases that's ever afflicted man. It makes you do senseless things.
I have nothing to lose in this, I assure you.
You are not without reward for this decision.
What reward could the god of death offer us?
Something lost to time. Perhaps something that your archives don't quite hold anymore. At your feet floats along before you, Onslus, you see a bishop's mantle of chainmail. The Sun Bishop's mantle. It's a large chainmail piece blessed by Sansei herself. It has the depiction of the sun on its back. Do you reach down to pick it up?
He doesn't touch it.
Before you, Radek, a staff. The spirit staff, a beacon of lost hope. A tall, winding piece of ash wood. It is carved in the imagery of the Leshy, the stag. You feel a power coming from it.
I think Onslus looks up to Zatka. I have no desire for power or trinkets.
That is okay. It's just to help you through your ways. It is all I can offer you in this state of mind.
You give these to us to battle these Lords of Blight?
They will help you. Your friend had something, but he did not want to have faith.
He is a stubborn man.
You have to understand that my ability to change the tides of this world do not work unless my brethren are with me. It is up to you to change their minds, that there is still justice left in this realm of yours. Is there not in your heart? Do you not wish to atone, Radek?
It's way, way past any time for me to be able to
No.
do so.
There's not.
I don't want you to mistake me staying here. And as he says that, he's going to put his foot under the staff and flip it up with his foot and catch it. As anything resembling faith.
You'll come around. I promise.
I'm only still here because in all my years of being alive, since my wife died, I have not met anyone I remotely like. He looks at Anselus. I like this one.
Perhaps that is your first step towards atonement, Radek.
Or my next step towards something terrible.
He looks back at Kaliak. No, I think that is good for you. In all my infinite wisdom, and it is in fact infinite. You don't have to like me. You don't have to worship me. But I created her. She is perfect to return the reins. Where the other gods have failed, I will succeed. To banish the eternal reign and to banish the Lords of Blight.
Are we done then?
Quite.
Onslaught kneels down and plucks the mantle from its place.
You feel it emanating with power. It is tangible.
May I ask of you something?
Bold, but by all means.
I ask for your understanding for our companion. May I bring back to him that which you brought to gift him. Without him, we cannot do this. He is our strength, our sword. And if you don't let me take it, there is a risk that Kaliak herself could perish before it's over.
The words of Kaliak perishing, the idea her dying before he has decided she is dead, makes him recoil. You have found a soft spot in the god of death. In all his perfection, there's a chink in the armor. You feel something bob against your leg. It is a sword and a scabbard, the blood blade. Imbued with the blood of the divine arcane, it is a black steel blade with a divot down the center, and it is filled with deep crimson blood. It is as ornate as it is beautiful, as it is powerful. It is finite. If he wishes to use it, he understands that that sword will act almost like her own magic. The barbs. But if he runs out of the blood, there is only one way to get more of it. And he looks back at Kaliak. Relay this to your friend.
Can I ask for one thing also?
No.
Ah.
What is it that you want?
Just that the next time you bring me here, it's either because I've failed or I've succeeded at what I want.
That is usually how the soul gets here.
All right, then.
Onslaught.
Onslaught spins down and picks up that sword.
You feel the rot sort of emanating in your mouth, touching it. Be gone. Leave me to my work. And he turns back to Kaliak. And in that large, massive form of his thumbs go back to the subspace, so that mental space of her chin, and dips her once more, cooing.
I think Onslaught watches for a moment longer than what he thinks he's supposed to before he slowly unfolds his hand and allows the dust and salt to fall to the ground.
And Radek waits one moment more, still watching this, getting a little turned on. And just before he opens his hand and drops the salt, he just smiles.
You are ripped out just as violently as you were ripped in. Lesh, you were in some sort of strange limbo, this white space that held nothing and everything at once. All three of you come back together, and it is a moment of like gasping, like you're just finally getting your head above water. And in your laps are the items that Zotka gave you.
You missed the best part, Lesh.
I think Onslaught takes the sword and throws it from his lap and sends it skidding across the floor to Lesh.
I think Lesh stops it with his foot as he stands. Oh, is this for me?
You never had a
Yes.
choice, Lesh.
Of course we didn't. Gods, kings, it's all the same. They take us and use them as their instruments of war.
Amen.
Do any of you look at Kalyak?
Onslaught does.
She's drowning. She is moving the same as she was in the Great Ichor. Her head kind of rears back, her back arches, and her body twitches and jerks like she's trying to catch her breath until finally she relaxes and turns over on her side and is coughing up ichor. She looks to you, Onslaught. Do you understand now what my sacrifice is?
I think I know.
How are you all feeling? How does Lesh feel?
Anger. Beyond measure. And he's standing there, stone and calm. Once again, he has been pulled into another king's war. Wars that he left behind, wars that cost him his family. And here he stands yet again, asked to fight for something he doesn't believe in. But he's not given a choice. So he is angry.
How does Radek feel?
Radek is angry at himself for his weakness in letting his liking for his new friend Anselus drag him into one more delay between the one thing he wants to accomplish in himself. And he's kind of feeling a little regret.
Okay.
Also a little tired, maybe with a headache.
Okay. And Onslaught finally.
I think Onslaught physically is feeling weak after the excitement of the past 24 hours and now traveling to the Great Ichor. He certainly needs to rest. It feels as though he is slightly overwhelmed with all of this new knowledge, and the only thing that is keeping him afloat in this moment is the memory of those stars in the sky and the possibility and potential that lies there.
So you're back into the mortal realm. Kaliak is just coughing up this ichor that she's been drowning in, and confirmed exactly what her sacrifice is when she uses her magic. She looks up at you, Lush. Wide doe eyes. Do you hate me now?
I don't hate you. I hate what made you.
I wish that you wouldn't.
I will do everything in my power to keep you alive for as long as needed. I swear my oath to you, not to whom you serve.
She looks over to you, Radek. I saw what you saw.
And
Should I be worried?
seeing as how you're the avatar of a god of death and all that, is sex out of the question?
I'm sorry, what?
Nothing. Turns around, goes and sits down in a corner.
I think Lesh, has this over fatherly fucking stare that just reaches across to Radek for a minute there.
You have to ask. If you don't ask, it's not nice.
I am a virgin. By the gods.
Okay. So was I at some point long ago.
Kaliak is a little bit disturbed by this questioning. And both Bones and Kaliak does not know how to respond to that. So,
Sorry, Bones. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you alright, Bones?
I'm fine. Poor Kaliak, man. She sort of gets herself together and sort of rummages around her bag to find a rag to sort of wipe herself down with.
I'm going to make some tea for everybody. And I'm going to make a special tea, the kind of tea that calms people the fuck down.
Okay. That's good.
I know I'm telling that to Bones.
Okay. That's fine. That's
Right.
good. There's a problem. And I just want you guys to be aware of it. A little meta problem. If you light a fire, smoke will come out the chimney. Are you sure you want to light a fire?
God damn it, Bones.
I am here to keep you alive so we can continue playing this in future arcs.
Wait a minute. But it's nighttime and it's raining.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like evening, but yeah.
We should be good for the night.
Okay.
You really want to test that theory with Bones there, Kurt?
No,
Listen,
what I was saying.
I am going off camping 101. If it is raining and it is nighttime, you're not seeing any smoke.
Okay. No problem. So you go about to start a fire, then Lush.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to say it because it's what my character would do.
Okay. That's perfectly fine. What is Onslaught up to? What's he doing as people are sort of starting to mill about and find comfort in this place?
I think Onslaught is taking a moment to admire the craftsmanship of this mantle.
Okay.
Is this something he's ever seen? Any
No.
of these things in his studies or readings?
you would have heard, you know what a bishop's mantle is, right?
Mhm.
Everybody who's ever seen armor knows what a bishop's mantle is. The one that comes down over the shoulders. It's a high collar. You would know that such artifacts, perhaps not named exactly what they are, what Zadka told you they are, but you would have heard of stories of rare items helping with the aid of either magic, swordsmanship, or calling upon the spirits of the world. So you have a little bit of an idea that this is something very powerful and ancient.
And it has sun iconography on it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You would note as well that the metal that the chainmail is made out of is a little bit softer than steel. You might assume that it is silver. But it's fine, and it's a little bit more lighter weight than steel or iron would be easily worn by you.
I think he puts it on.
It fits like a glove, like it was just made for you. Kalia kind of perks up. It's good.
It's good. Yeah.
You feel the power emanating from it. You have an idea of what it can do, and I will tell you what it does. On top of added physical protection, once per combat, you may use the power of Sansei to minimize the efforts of the tomes that honor her, as well as the extend their reach and time.
Okay. It's really useful for him. Yeah.
Does Radek kind of inspect his staff at all?
He will at some point. No, right now he's making
Okay.
tea now that Lesh has made a fire so bravely.
So bravely.
But he will at some point for sure. During the night, probably like once people are kind of asleep and whatnot, he'll probably take it and kind of toy with it. So you can tell me now what it does, or you can tell me later. It's all good to you.
I'll tell you now. With this, you may call upon the wilds of the woods, be a great grizzly bear or as benign as a mischievous raccoon, but you may summon the power of the Leshy who controls those animals and those creatures. You can use that once per day. It allows you to commune with the Leshy. So say you're in the woods and you know that the Leshy will come to you and try and trick you into being lost in the woods. You have a better chance of survival now.
Is the Leshy romanceable?
I will send you pictures later of what a Leshy looks like, and you can decide on that on your own. You can certainly try, but the Leshy is married to the Kikamura, so he's married.
Do they do things as a couple? Because Radek goes both ways. He's all good.
The Kikimora and the Leshy don't look at you from across the bar to tell you that they're really
like my
into your
vibe?
vibes. Yeah, they
I
don't.
use the staff. Do I get a better chance?
No. Anyway, Lesh, are you inspecting the sword at all?
I think he draws it and takes a look at it, tests its weight.
It's perfectly balanced. You could not balance it more.
He puts it on his back.
Okay. You feel that same sensation that you might have felt when Kalyak used her power against the Uzovka. The dread, but it's in your hands now. You control it. Although in a finite source.
He very much curls his lip at that, like the unnaturalness of it.
It's not unnatural, though. It's death.
What he saw her do in his mind is nothing natural at all.
Fair enough. So Radek is making tea. Onsolus is putting on his mantle. Kalyak is putting away her bell and sort of a little bit cabin fever, sort of pacing about a little bit. What do you guys do?
I think Onslaught is going to approach Radic while he is making this tea. He's taken the mantle off and stored it in his pack for now. It feels, I don't know, a little bit too much to just be wearing around.
The lost temptations.
Yes, thank you.
Tea?
Please. What's in it?
Stuff and a lot of honey, because the stuff tastes horrible.
He takes a cup.
I figure we just needed a little settling down kind of drink.
You stayed.
Yeah, don't remind me.
Why did you stay?
Yeah, I've been asking myself that same question. I mean, to be honest, I don't think it was going to make a difference whether I stayed or not. From the moment we met that idiot back at the fort and took on this job, we were chained to it, regardless of what it became or where it led to. And I didn't think it was going to make a difference either way, so I figured, you know, might as well. I got a little ticked off when he put a lot of things on me because I left, so I think I wanted to just do the opposite. Just stay. If only to prove to him that staying or going doesn't make a difference.
As you left?
Yeah. Yep. Because I left. There's... Sometimes you end up with the wrong people. People who do bad things, and you know they're bad, so you decide to leave, because what's the point of staying there? There's nothing you can do. There's too many of them. You're not going to change their minds, so you go. I envy you this hope that you have. I think maybe if I'd had any back then, it would have made a difference. So many old women killed. And only because they know the secrets of the earth. They speak its language. This place is hard on people. For sure. The rains, the rot, the disease, the warlords. It's a hard place. It's especially hard on old women who know things. And sometimes you just don't have the courage.
You speak in vague riddles.
Yeah, because I want you to like me, and if I told you all of it, you probably wouldn't like me anymore, so I figure, you know, this way you'll get to stay friends. At least until this, whatever this is over.
Everybody has a past, Radic.
Yeah. Yep.
It's okay
Except
that
you,
have
apparently.
one.
Except you, apparently. Right? This whatever Lesh saw, whatever I saw, whatever you saw, you was this wolf thing That's pretty recent. If there's nothing before that, are you telling me, sweet Angelus, that your life has been nothing but dusty old homes and quiet coughs and ancient old libraries, the wooden shelves sagging with time and rot, and the paper becoming moldy with every year that passes in this rain?
I am. I've dedicated my entire life to it. And I've sacrificed for it.
For it?
Knowledge. The great archives. My position within them. I'm sure knowledge I have imparted on the Emperor has been used for evils.
Mm-hmm.
None that I know of personally. None but this here and now.
Well, then I dare say that, although this is probably a bit of a boon to you, because you're going to get to do a bit of living now, the weight of knowledge it's a hard thing to travel around with, but it's nothing compared to actual experience.
Something that I'm not equipped for.
Oh, you are. See this nice little set of shoulder pads you got there? Making light, Angelus, but we got us this far. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Whether you get one more day out of this, or 100, or 200, or 700, or 1,000. Every day, since the day you set foot at the fort, has been one day of experience you would not have gotten otherwise. And every day that goes by, you are immensely richer for it. And someday, maybe, I'll tell you about these people who kill old women. I'll tell you about how they killed one old woman in particular that was dear to me, and how they killed a young one that was dear to me. And how many I killed. But until that time, I think you should rejoice and cherish every day that you get out in this sodding fucking rain. A shitty farmhouse, these two idiots, the avatar of fucking death, sitting by your side, the shittiest tea this fucking side of the northern reaches. Thank God for honey. Because everything that happens to you, every minute of every day since we got to the fort, are things you would never have known of. Because not a single written word, no matter whose pen etches it on paper, can match the pure, unadulterated fucking magic of smelling it and touching it and tasting it and seeing it and hearing it. Welcome to your life, Angelus. Glad you finally made it.
Yes, I must ask you then, a bird who has spent their life in a cage, The day that they are set free, are they truly free? Or do they still know that cage well?
Cages have a way of sticking with you. Because even if you move really far away from them, you're part of your brain, part of your life, and is still stuck there, and you still go back to it once in a while. And I think the real victory over it is to, one, never go back, and two, fill every waking moment of your life with so much that it quells down that noise to a level where you can ignore it. We're not free, none of us. You saw it. Not even the gods are free. He said it himself. Not even the gods are free. There's an old story. I don't even know if it's from any of the books you've read. But there's this story about this guardian of this beautiful palace who one day stands up to the king. And in his anger, the king banishes him, strips away his armor and his helm and his badge of office and his sword, and throws him out into the street. And this guardian ends up in the gutter with a few of his brethren, looking around him and seeing the muck and the shit and the vile surroundings he finds himself in. And he thinks to himself, and he says to his brethren, the mind can make a castle into the gutter, or the gutter into a castle. So if this is where we have to be, then let our minds make it a castle. And I think that there's a lot to be taken from that. Is this a shitty old farm, or is this a beautiful estate where we are lounging about a wonderful fire with our friends, warm and dry and dressed in fineries and sitting in the most comfortable of chairs and being served the freshest and plumpest and juiciest of victuals? You have a stronger mind than most people I've ever met. I'm sure you can turn this little fucking shitty farmhouse into a beautiful little domain.
He takes another sip from his tea. Seems to have gotten a bit sweeter.
It's all that honey.
What is Lash up to?
House ain't that big. I'm pretty sure he stood there for about 5 minutes watching this conversation and then went, and turned to go check on Kalia.
She is probably poking around that singular bedroom in the back, sort of just milling about, keeping her hands busy.
Are you okay?
She looks at you for a long moment. I am? I'm fine. Are you okay?
No. You seem like you're avoiding something.
It's strange to take someone to a place so sacred to me, to see me in my most vulnerable place. And yet, I took 3.
And there's just a benchmark. You know that you can take 3 now. So, who knows? Maybe next time it's 20. Basically, you get stronger every day.
It's a sacred place, Lesh. At least it is to me.
I can understand that.
There is something to be said about letting someone witness your greatest sacrifice and what makes your magic tick.
I assure you, I have zero doubts of your abilities and what you are.
I am glad that you don't doubt that aspect of me.
There is not much I doubt about you.
Just my patron.
I think he goes and sits on the bed and he pats it to sit down next to him.
She does.
I have been an instrument of war and death for almost as long as I can remember. I was born into it, following in my father's footsteps, always obeying the will of someone else, always having to enact someone else's command, who should live and who should die. Ali, I see you as I once was, just a weapon for someone else to wield. And I am not saying that your faith is unfounded. I am not saying that your belief should not be there. I know the gods exist, but I do not believe in them, because they are just as fallible as we are. And I saw that firsthand today, thanks to you. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I just had something confirmed that I always knew to be true. Whether it's a king, it's a god, it's a demon, it doesn't matter. Those of us who walk this earth, we are just playthings for others. And I refuse to be something else's plaything. And I would hate to see you be somebody else's plaything, to be discarded once it is no longer useful. I do not wish this for you.
It is my choice to make.
It is your choice to make, and I'm not trying to take that away from you. But I hope in time you will see that you don't owe them anything.
Would you not take the chance to free the world of the rain? To destroy the Lords of Blight? To send them back to Nav where they belong? It is not a righteous journey to you.
It is a righteous journey. But if they really wanted the world healed, the nine would have banded together and done it themselves.
Perhaps it is a test of faith then, Lesh. And for that I have to honor Zadka in giving me this test.
That is your choice, and I will help you see it through. Just know that I don't doubt you. Just that I was once you, in another fashion.
Do you understand that Zadka is not anything other than beholden to his brethren and to Sensei? That's without them, he would not exist. Without the god of war, he would not have death to rule over. Without the sun, he would have no lover.
Let me ask you something. Faith aside. Using your brain, not your heart. The gods have been gone for how long now? And yet we still endure. Sure, it's a bit wet outside. Sure, It's a bit shitty. But we still endure, without the help of the gods. And here we are, one lone god, telling us that everything hinges on little old you. To me, it seems like he's asking a bit too much of you. And yes, it's your choice to do as he commands. But don't ever forget, you can change your mind.
This is my righteous path, and I will take it.
Then, you take it. But do not think I will not mourn your passing. Because this path will lead to your death. It'll be morning soon. You might as well get some sleep while you can. I have a very strong feeling we're going to be on the move a lot.
Very well.
I wonder if those two are fucking yet. As he gets up off the bed.
Just as you get up off the bed, you hear something outside. The scream of a woman. Not a woman. A girl. You hear a familiar voice, Radek. Vasilisa begging for her life as she tells whoever has her, I am not a hearth witch. And you hear the familiar whistle that you know so well. What do you do, Radek?
So while we're talking, Anselos, when that happens, you see, probably for the first time ever, Radek freeze, like, not know what to do for a moment. He's gone. There's something going on. There's some memory that's kind of taken over. And the next moment, his mug of tea is tumbling through the air, and he's moving, and he's picking up the staff and his spear and the shield, and he's heading out the door.
You see, just at the ridge line, just as the sun is setting, a group of horses in a line. It's perfectly outlined by the remaining light. These black shadows, and you see the body of a girl being pulled along by rope. Please, I beg you. Our hearth witch was killed. I am not one of them.
Do I recognize anyone?
Not yet. You can't really make out any faces, but one of the horses stops.
I, just before running out, I stopped at the door and turned to Anselos and said, you stay here, I'll try to make sure they don't find you. And I head off towards them, and I'm kind of like a jogging gait, kind of running towards them.
That horse that stopped starts heading towards you. He sees the light from inside the fire that you built, or that Lesh built. You didn't need smoke to warn anyone that you were there. The amber glow of the fire was just enough. Do you make your way towards them?
Yeah, I'm still running towards them as a kind of jogging.
Radek, you know him. The leather boots and armor, which some would assume are made from animal skin, but you know better than that, don't you, Radek? The pelvis bone dangling from the horse's breast collar, wide and with an opening meant for childbirth. It is characteristically female. The overgrown nails gripping the reins, black with blood and filth. The glass jar filled with red, clotting blood. The dark hair The eyes that used to look just like yours until they yellowed some years ago. And the tremors in his hands, not from fear of whatever disease he has, but from the consumption of human flesh. He leers at you, Radek, dismounting from his horse, his arms outstretched wide expectantly, and he says, "It is so good to see you again, brother."